Okay, so the Starfield Direct event finally dropped, and now we have a crap ton of stuff we can talk about. The first is going to be the biggest concern that players seem to be having right now.
I'm a little bit scared about the whole 1,000 planets thing and what that means, and I find that overwhelming and anxiety-inducing rather than appealing.
My immediate reaction to it is that these worlds look like they're too vast, and then they will most likely be barren and desolate. I can see this being massive, empty, desolate landscapes that you fucking tumble across for hours on end.
Will the planets be empty the same way No Man's Sky was at launch? The short answer here is this. I don't think the planets will be fully explorable in the same way that Skyrim was, where you could walk from one end of the map to the other. Instead, I think that Starfield is going to be more of an instanced area experience. Listen to these two clips.
We realistically simulate the galaxy around you. We love exploration and rewarding it, but you do explore differently in this game given its scale.
In a previous video talking about how they created the environments, they talked about how they had pre-built buildings set up that could be plopped into an encounter when it was created by the procedural system. I have a video talking about that, and I'll just link that to the bottom and make a little card thing, but check that out if you want to know what I'm talking about. So I think in this case, the planets aren't going to be fully explorable like they are in No Man's Sky, but instead you're going to fly to a planet and choose a place to land. Maybe it'll already have a point of interest to visit, or you can land in an uninhabited zone. We'll then go through a landing cutscene where the game will generate the area that you're landing in, but since it's procedural, it's not always going to be the exact same if another player were to land in the same general area on the same planet. Then once we land in that area, you can do whatever tasks the game might have thrown at you. Now listen to this.
When you're done exploring, you can walk back or fast travel to your ship.
This is what clinched it for me. If you could fly in a planet's environment from one area to another, they would have shown that capability in the demo in this exact spot. Instead, they specifically say that you can either walk back to your ship or fast travel to it. This absolutely screams instance to me. Think about this like the caves in Valheim. Landing on a planet is the same thing as walking into a cave in Valheim. Once you go through the landing process and land on the planet, you're plopped into a limited area with a procedurally generated amount of things to do. We have no idea how big that area will be, and if it's really constrictive, modders will probably find a way to expand that instanced area. Then, when you're done in that space, like in Valheim, when you've mined, collected, and killed everything in the area, you walk back to the entrance, or in Starfield's case, you fast travel to your ship and leave. Now, I don't know about you, but one of the biggest draws to Starfield was the idea that you could travel to and land on any of these planets. If landing on those planets means I can only explore a limited area until I run into an invisible wall and can't walk to the top of that mountain in the distance, will it still feel like an open world game? I'm not so sure. It's certainly a bummer for sure, but I mean, think about it. Would you rather fly around a planet for minutes or even hours, hoping to stumble across something interesting, or land in an area where the procedural system will create stuff for you to do in that area? It's a tough call, I think, but the cries of players talking about their worry about the emptiness of the planets suggests that Bethesda might have made the right call in limiting the player's ability to fly around and fully explore those planets. Now, of course, this is all speculation from the words that they've said, and we have no confirmation, but from what we've seen and heard so far, I really think that instanced areas is the direction Bethesda went in regards to planetary exploration. Whether you think that's great or awful is purely personal opinion, and maybe modders can improve upon it later on if it feels particularly restrictive. Maybe it'll be barely noticeable if the instanced area is very large or is procedurally generated as you move, creating the illusion of planetary exploration, when the game is just making more and more area for you to walk around in. This is similar to how No Man's Sky does it. No Man's Sky generates the area in your immediate vicinity and then throws it all away when you're no longer in that area, and then simply rebuilds it if you go back. There's a video on that whole thing, but I'm not going to go dig for it. That's going to be the important part of these explorable areas, so we'll have to wait and see how that system works and what its limitations are going to be. If the illusion is good enough, the limitations might not even matter. But what do you think? Do you agree that we'll be landing on planetary instances rather than a full-size planet itself? Or do you have another theory? Or maybe does it even matter to you? Let me know in the comments below. Next time, I want to talk about ship customization because that's the most exciting part of the game for me. But until then, like the video if you liked the video, dislike it if you disliked it, and until next time, I'm Space Coconut, and you're welcome.